So welcome back to another episode, and welcome to the anniversary, the 30th anniversary of Secret of Mana, Seiken Densetsu 2 in Japan. And 30 years ago today, on October 3rd, 1993, this was released. And this is my copy that I picked up all the way back then, and it's still in pretty good condition. I'm kind of amazed by that. And what I want to do today is talk about why Secret of Mana was such a special game then, why it's such a special game now, and why are people still talking about it 30 years later? What do you guys think of Secret of Mana? Do you have some childhood memories of this game, playing this game with your friends? Yes, this is a magical game that has endured the test of time, and such a really big deal game when it was released on the Super Nintendo. So the game was released on August 6, 1993 in Japan for the Super Famicom. Then it was released here a few months later on October 3rd, 1993. And this was a fascinating game, but Seiken Densetsu 2, where was the first game? Where was the first Seiken Densetsu game? Where was that released on? It was released over here as Final Fantasy Adventure. And that was released on the Game Boy. A lot of my friends had it. I remember borrowing off a friend. I played it a little bit. I kind of liked it. But the really amazing thing was, I didn't know anything about Secret of Mana. I had no idea about it until a certain Nintendo Power came out. This one right here. And I remember flipping through this as a kid going, oh my god, this game looks absolutely amazing. It's like an overhead Zelda game. And it has multiplayer? That was exciting, and I'll get to the multiplayer in a little bit here. So I'd be looking at this going, look at the graphics, it looks cartoony, it looks really up my alley. And back then, we didn't have a lot to choose from for action RPGs or role-playing games. They would come out every so often on the Super Nintendo. It felt like you were waiting years for them, and it felt like I was waiting years for Secret of Mana until it was finally released. And another thing that I find fascinating and really interesting about Secret of Mana was its beginnings, its creation. This was getting created for the CD-ROM format for Nintendo, for the Super Famicom CD-ROM that they were working on with Sony. That was a thing. This game had to be condensed and released on cartridge later on when that deal fell out. And the story's crazy because Sony went off to create the PlayStation, and we never got Secret of Mana on CD. Could you have imagined that back then? I think a lot of us have fantasized about that, and a lot of people have philosophized about a lot of the stuff that was taken out of the game. There's a lot of things that people say that was taken out of this game and put into Chrono Trigger, which is really, really fascinating. But I love that story, and I only found out that story years later, that this was supposed to be a CD game to begin with. And the thing that was fascinating was the combat. I love the overhead combat. I loved that it was like Zelda. So you're looking down on your character, doing his attacks. And I was like, wait a second. There's a meter that builds up to 100%. And that's when you unleash your attack and do the most amount of damage. And I really, really, really liked that a heck of a lot. And I thought that had something kind of different. It was also the ring command function. So when you were running around, you hit the ring command function and you could bring up your weapons, your items, even into your stats and all of that. And I love that. I thought that was so easy and intuitive as I was playing the game. Running around, I could just stop, bring up my weapons, equip a new item. It was very handy and very easy to do. I didn't have to go through cumbersome menus and things like that. It was very intuitive and very easy to use. Now here's where I talk about the beautiful graphics of this game at the time were stunning, absolutely stunning. And I can't tell you how much it looked like an anime. I know you look back now and you're like, well, it's very simple, it's pixelated graphics, but it was beautiful. And you had to remember, 1993, seeing this game was remarkable. You couldn't believe it. I remember seeing the monster designs and all of that, and some of the mushroom creatures and stuff, all the creatures that would attack you in the fields, and I was like, this is really amazing. At the time, I couldn't even believe the animation. And I remember picking up a treasure chest and you'd shake it and it wouldn't be attached to your hands and you'd slam it down to get your items. I thought that was amazing at the time. you look back now and you're like, my God, things have really progressed, and they have. And is there a lot of nostalgia for this game? There certainly is. There certainly is. But I still think it's a beautiful game, especially the Mode 7 graphics that were here. You know, when you kind of go around the land, especially at the end of the game. I won't kind of ruin that if you want to play the game. But one of the cool things was when you get shot out of a cannon. Yeah, I always loved that, getting shot out of the cannon to new locations, new areas, and you would land. And I remember, like, you fly up and I was like, oh my God, look at this. This is a complete 3D world. And I thought this was the pinnacle of where graphics could go. So the game had a lot going for it. And just as a one-player game, I think the game would have been very special. But the game could accommodate up to 3 people. Up to 3 people, or you could play with one character and a couple of AIs. Obviously, AI was very different back then than it is now, but it was still a cool feature. But it was the multiplayer that sold me. That was the thing that I was like, oh my God, I want to play this. And I was playing it with my girlfriend originally in the beginning, and then as we kind of broke up, my friend Andrew, you know, who lived on my street, we gamed together every single day back then. He had an interest in playing it as well, and I was like, hey, this is great. And I have so many memories of Andrew getting off high school. I just graduated, so I was just trying to figure out what I was trying to do with my life. I was watching like Samurai Pizza Cast at the time, and I'd be waiting. When's Andrew off school? Like, come on, man, like finish your day so you can come over and play Secret of Mana with me. And he would come over, and I have so many memories playing that game with him and having a great time. It was like, we got to play this amazing action RPG on the Super Nintendo together, and that was magical. We loved RPGs in general back then, but to be able to play a game together like that, it was magical, and it was one of those ones that's very memorable. And I have a lot of memories of like going babysitting for my aunt back then, and going into the basement after the kids had gone to bed. They were fine. I went to the basement, and I was like, okay, it's time to level up. And I would just level up me and Andrew's weapons in the game. And I remember bringing the game, you know, back to like my place and having Andrew come over on the Monday. And he's like, oh my God, you leveled all the weapons up? So we were quite powerful in the game, and we really enjoyed it quite a lot. But here's the thing that I want to do is I reached out to my friend Andrew, because it's been 30 years and he's moved to California. He used to live in Vancouver and he couldn't get over here. And I was like, Andrew, like, tell me and tell everybody about your experiences playing, you know, obviously the Secret of Mana back then, 30 years ago. What do you remember? I'll cut to Andrew right now.
Hi guys. Unfortunately, I couldn't be with Johnny in the studio today, but I was in his basement 30 years ago to play Secret of Mana. We didn't have network-connected consoles back then, so I had to get dressed and walk all the way down the street. Can you even imagine? A lot of fond memories of Secret of Mana. I remember how much time we put into it to level up all the weapons and the spells for all the characters. I remember the ring menu and how it was revolutionary at the time. I can even imagine the sound effects as you walk through the menu. Remember how beautiful the game was. And I remember the soundtrack. Oh, it's still one of the world's best soundtracks 30 years later. In fact, the one-track Prophecy is still one of my all-time favorite pieces of video game music. And part of why Secret of Mana sticks with me after all this time is because it was the last major Squaresoft release before I moved away from the neighborhood. So it almost represents a very specific point in my life that is always connected to the activities of that fall in 1993. And I like that Squaresoft thought that Secret of Mana was so successful that they were willing to let their American developers try their own version and make Secret of Evermore a couple of years later. I think that's a great game and a great testament to the legacy of Secret of Mana.
Yes, as I say, so much nostalgia there for playing this game 30 years ago, and it's amazing that we're still talking about it to this day. Another thing that makes me always remember this game is I can't get it out of my mind at times, especially when I hear the music. This music is so haunting and so surreal and so unbelievable, and one that spans the test of time. And do you know when it began? as soon as I started the game up. I remember clicking on the power button and hearing that absolutely eerie opening music with the whale sounds. And I listened to that, and I remember the title came on and I saw the characters in their pixelated glory. I look at it now and I was like, oh my goodness, that hasn't aged as well as I remember it to be, but it was a powerful moment. And all of the music in this game, I gotta say something. It's haunting to me, really haunting of a different time, a more innocent time. I was 19 years old. Now I was out of high school. I had to figure out my life. What was I gonna do? I was freaking out. I needed to play Secret of Mana to escape all of that. And I really did. And it's so amazing to revisit the game. I got to play it the other day and I was like, this game really holds up extremely well. And here's another thing that I want to do. Here is my original box from 1993, and I probably haven't opened this up in like 25 years, and I thought I'd do it with you guys because there was something I want to show you guys as well as I'm opening it up here. Here is the original cartridge. Isn't that wonderful? I love this plastic slipcase here for that. I kind of forget about things like that till I open it up, and that's really something special. It came with this amazing fold-out map, and I haven't seen this map in 25 years of all the areas in there. Look at this. Isn't this unbelievably exciting? Don't you just want to play this game? And here, just like the opening of the game, right here, because I think they digitized that little bit right here, the huge mana tree. Isn't that magical? Isn't that great? I loved it back then when they included things like this with your games. It got you excited. It got you excited. And another thing that's in here, and I went through this quite a few times back then, the instruction manual, all in beautiful color. And here's the thing, this is why I want to open this up. Another really magical thing with this game is the artwork. Right here, what did they do? They did some drawings for it, yes, but they also did claymation, artwork. They just created these characters in pure claymation just for the display of it, just to put it in the manual, just to advertise the game. And I thought that was incredible of them to do. And I really just enjoyed this so much. And it really worked with my imagination. I had this amazing anime looking game with these great claymation artwork going on. And it brought it all together with the amazing music and the visuals. This game was magical. It is. And the game still, to this day, right now, is magical. It really is to me. And I just wanted to come in and share some of my memories and why the game was such a big deal back then. And there were so many reasons for it to be. And the really weird thing is, years later, we got a bit of a controversial game. We got Secret of Mana, can you believe this? On the PS4. And I remember when this came out, I was redoing the games room and I went and reviewed this in a forest because it felt so fitting. It felt so fitting. And it had a different facelift, and I didn't mind it. I even said in my review back then that you can't touch the Super Famicom, Super Nintendo version. But you know what? It was neat to have a different version of it on the PS4. And for any of you out there who are still going, man, I would really love to play this game, there's a wonderful collection of Mana here on the Nintendo Switch, and I really recommend picking this up. And the reason why, it's super cheap. You can get it super cheap now, and it's got a bunch of the games. It's got the Game Boy game, Seiken Densetsu 2 and 3 on here, which I only finished a few years ago because it was the first time it was officially translated and brought out in North America. So anyways, guys, I'm so excited that I got a chance to come in and talk about some of my memories and thoughts looking back on this incredible game and what it meant to my life. And I'll ask you guys, what did it mean to your lives when you played this game back then? I know it's making you feel old, right? It is for me, but still, it kind of has such a soft place in my heart that makes me still feel very young. That is for sure. So anyways, guys, until next time.